Why is evidence important? A good answer begins with a simple idea. Evidence is important because human beings can be confident, persuasive, sincere, and still wrong. That may sound straightforward, but the full story is usually larger than the first answer that comes to mind. Many everyday questions look small from the outside because we meet them in ordinary life. Then, when we slow down, we discover systems, habits, history, and consequences working underneath. The first layer is cause and effect. Evidence connects beliefs to reality through observation, measurement, records, experiments, reliable testimony, and careful comparison. These causes do not act like separate boxes. They interact. One pressure can make another pressure stronger, and a small change can become important when it is repeated across millions of people, many years, or a whole society. This is why simple answers are useful as starting points, but they are rarely enough as final explanations. The second layer is limits. Without evidence, decisions can be ruled by rumor, fear, loyalty, prejudice, advertising, or whoever speaks most loudly. Limits matter because they show where a popular solution, belief, or habit stops working. A person may be doing something partly helpful and still miss the larger problem. Understanding limits is not a reason to give up. It is a reason to choose better tools and ask more careful questions. A concrete example makes this easier to see. A court needs evidence before punishment because accusation alone would make every person vulnerable to anger or lies. The example is specific, but the pattern is wider. Real life is built from chains of decisions. What happens at the end often depends on choices made much earlier, sometimes by people who never see the final result. There is also a human side. People tend to prefer answers that are quick, comforting, or easy to repeat. But serious understanding often asks for patience. It asks us to separate what feels true from what is supported, what helps a little from what solves the root problem, and what benefits one person now from what affects many people later. This does not mean the answer has to be complicated in language. The clearest explanation is often the strongest one. Look at the causes, follow the consequences, notice the limits, and then ask what would actually improve the situation. Step by step, the question becomes less mysterious. Evidence does not remove judgment, but it disciplines it. It gives people something outside their own wishes to examine together. The important lesson is that good thinking does not stop at the first visible piece. It follows the connections. When we do that, we are better prepared to make choices that are realistic, fair, and useful. One practical way to use this idea is to ask better questions. What is causing the problem? Who is affected? What evidence would change our minds? What solution helps at the surface, and what solution reaches deeper? These questions slow down the rush to easy answers. They also make evidence something people can understand instead of something they only argue about. The stakes are not only theoretical. Reliable belief is shaped by repeated choices, and repeated choices are shaped by what people understand. When a person sees the chain more clearly, they can act with more care. When a community sees it clearly, it can build better rules, habits, and institutions. That is why explanation matters. It turns a confusing issue into a map, and a map makes wiser action possible.